Hello, gorgeous. I am back today, and today we're talking about people pleasing and love and relationships. Oh my goodness. Okay, so many of you guys know of my story, but I was a bona fide, certified, had a PhD equivalent in people pleasing and overgiving, what I call toxic giving in my new book. And there were two reasons for this. One, I have incarnated in a female body, and women have been evolutionarily groomed to be that way. So yes, there is that. We are naturally more inclined to tend and befriend and not ruffle any feathers. And so we have that natural tendency from the evolutionary perspective. And then for me, on top of it, it was conditioning and womb wounds from literally both sides. So my dad was a people pleaser and overgiver, and so was my mother. So I got it in utero. Like the womb wounds were transferred. I had the generational curse of it, and then I was also conditioned into it. So I had it from all angles. I had it in my evolutionary history because I'm a female. I got it from my dad's side of the family. I got it from my mom's side of the family, and then I was also conditioned. So it was a lot, right? And I grew up thinking there was just something wrong with everyone else, that people were users and abusers and people didn't know how to honor boundaries, not realizing the entire time that I was participating in a dynamic. Like my tendencies, my embodiment was something that was pulling these people towards me. So I have done a lot of inner work around people pleasing and overgiving and all of that stuff. I've had to go back and forgive my parents, like a lot of stuff. Today, what I want to share with you is the three things that I feel like have made the most difference at that time where I was first beginning that inner work, when my nervous system didn't have the embodiment. It wasn't a habit yet. It was very new, and I had to work against my natural identity and my natural tendencies, okay? So number one is to decide once and have the same rules for everyone. Decide once and have the same rules for everyone. When I would talk to people who were not people pleasers about this issue that I was having, I would get really unhelpful advice. It's helpful advice for people who don't have this natural tendency, but it was not helpful for me. For example, they would say things like, decide who you want to help and how you want to help, and have conversations with people and go back and tell people you don't want to do that anymore. It didn't work. None of that helped because I could not be trusted. I didn't have the courage, the confidence, the embodiment, the identity to decide, okay, well, in this circumstance and in this situation and with this person, I will help in this way, and I will say no to everyone else. Or I will go back and say, you know how I said yes, I actually meant no. I just couldn't be trusted at that time. By the way, there's studies that show that it is way harder to say yes and then go back and say no than it is to just say no in the beginning. The one that's coming to my mind right away is the studies that they did with chimps, which are, you guys know, our closest relatives in the animal kingdom. So there were these chimps and they were perfectly fine and happy. And then the researchers came along and gave these chimps 2 apples, okay? 2 apples each. And they were just over the moon. They were very, very, very happy. They had no apples and they were relatively happy. And now they had 2 apples and they were very happy. Well, then what the researchers did is they went and they took 1 apple away. What do you think happened? Did the chimps go back to being relatively happy? Hey, they still have 1 apple? No, they got quite upset. But just moments ago, they had no apple and now they still had 1 apple. But because they had been given 2 apples and suddenly 1 was taken away, they got very upset. So when we say yes to someone, we make a promise, or we say, yes, you can move into with me, or yes, I'll do your work, or I'll watch your kids, whatever the thing is that you do, that you have a tendency of doing and saying yes to. And then you go back and say no, suddenly this person will start acting like them being in that situation is your fault, even though it's not your fault, right? So this advice was not useful for someone like me. at that time. Okay, so what I did is I decided my values once and for all, and I had the same rules for everyone. It didn't matter if my family came along or if Fawn's family came along or a friend came along or like I had to have the same rules for everyone. And what this did is it shaped my identity, not only for myself, but it also shaped the identity for other people to know, oh, Mina just doesn't do this. So we're rewiring our neural pathways, our identity for us and for everyone else, okay? So just decide once and have the same rules for everyone, the same answer for everyone. Number 2, overcorrect. Overcorrect, okay? You know that advice that people are giving me that, in what circumstances do you want to say yes and with who and in what? I can't be trusted at that time. I just couldn't. So I had to say no to everyone because like I just said to you with the monkeys, right, with the chimps, it is way easier to say no to everyone and then go back and be like, you know what, actually, I'm so sorry. I can't help you in this thing. Because if you say no and then say yes, that would be like not giving the apples and then giving one apple. So it would have that spike in happiness versus giving 2 apples and then taking one away or taking both away. They're going to be very upset with you. So overcorrect, say no to everyone, say no to everything, every request, and knowing that you can always change your mind, and changing your mind from no to a yes, it's way easier than changing your mind from a yes to a no. Number 3 is go to the core wounds. What happened is when I started doing this inner work and I started putting these things in place where I had the same rules for everyone based on my values, I decided once and automated, I overcorrected by just saying no to everything, even if I did want to help. I started realizing and asking, why am I like this? Like, why do I have this tendency of jumping in and saving everyone? And the obvious answers were, well, my mom and dad were like that. I was groomed into it. This is a generational curse. But as I started like going deeper, what I really realized was I had an abandonment wound. I would have never in a million years uncovered this if I was just trying to set boundaries on the superficial level. When I went really deep, I'm like, oh my God, I am afraid of being abandoned, and I'm willing to do anything and everything to just keep people in my life, even if, first of all, those people will either never abandon me, or I don't really even care if they do, right? Like, I'm an adult. So it was stemming from this like deeper root issue. So I did inner work around the abandonment wound, and then that tendency, the symptom that was showing up, which was the people pleasing and overgiving, root cause, the actual disease part was the abandonment wound. So when I did inner work around that, it was like, oh my God, now I don't have the symptom because I went to the root cause. It's the equivalent of you have your hand on the fire and then you kept treating the fire wounds. Well, no, you have to remove your hand. Like, you have to go to the root cause. And that was the root cause for me. So let me know if this is something that you've dealt with or are dealing with right now, and which of these techniques sound like something you can practice and you can put into use right away. Let me know in the comments. I have 2 resources for you. If you want extra help, my personal power activation course and my bigger, larger Savage Feminine course are 2 courses that are going to kick your butt out of this. If you have tendencies of people pleasing or giving, these are the 2 courses. Start with the personal power activation if you want to just kind of dip your toes into it. But if you're like, no, I need like 911 help, go to the Savage Feminine. I will link both of them in the description box for you. These courses will really help you. I also want you to let me know so I used to believe that people pleasing is something that is like more something that the basic babe would do. But what I've seen in my work is that self-aware Barbies are actually more likely to people please. So are you a self-aware Barbie or have been at some point in your life, and still had the people-pleasing stuff, still had the over-giving stuff. If this is you, this is sort of my unofficial poll. I'm writing a very savage book on this very topic, and like dealing with predators and manipulators and all of those people when you have these tendencies. And I would really love to hear if you are or identify with or have identified with as a self-aware Barbie and still had that. So let me know in the chat or in the comments. I hope this was useful for you. Give this video a thumbs up, share it with someone that needs it, subscribe if you're new here, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.